Luring big fish is the hard part in summer wild fishing. Although fishing in summer is challenging, it's undeniable that summer is quite suitable for waiting to catch big fish. While both summer and winter make fishing difficult, the fish conditions are fundamentally different. In winter, due to low temperatures, fish activity is restricted, which leads to a decrease in food intake. In the high temperatures of summer, fish are extremely energetic, but they face a situation where they want to eat but can't get enough. This is because the shallow waters with abundant food are hot and have strong sunlight, so big fish can only enter the shallow waters to forage for a short period of time throughout the day. If the weather is favorable, fishing in summer isn't actually that hard. Because when the weather is bad in summer, fish almost can't eat their fill every day. When it comes to catching big fish, there's a saying, if you want fish to come ashore, you have to exchange them with grain. So, luring fish is very important. 1. Types of nest bait. There's a rule for catching big fish in summer: bottom-dwelling fish like cool places, and without rain, they can only be fished in the morning and evening. Mid-upper layer fish are not so afraid of heat and can be caught during the day. The nest bait for bottom-dwelling fish and mid-upper layer fish is completely different in terms of flavor and state. For bottom-dwelling fish, it's recommended to use slightly fermented bait. Because in high water temperatures, food is easy to ferment, and even a little smell will be detected by fish, as fish have a much more developed sense of smell than humans. Generally, it's suggested to make the bait with a slightly sour taste and a hint of wine aroma, and then match the thickness according to the water flow and the situation of small fish. Powdery things attract small fish but are beneficial for activating the nest. Blocky and coarse-grained things are good for retaining fish, but they activate the nest significantly more slowly. The nest bait for floating fishing is completely different. In summer, floating fishing mainly targets grass carp, silver carp, bighead carp, or small fish like topmouth coulter and whitebait. Although it's better to fish for grass carp with floating methods in summer, generally, nest bait made of grains can't be used for floating nests. Usually, they are used for bottom nests, and when fishing at the bottom, we can also take into account catching grass carp. Silver carp and bighead carp are different. In summer, they can only be fished with floating methods, and the nest bait must be able to stay suspended in the middle of the water for a long time. So, we usually use things with small specific gravity, such as stir-fried fine bran, cornmeal, rice bran, and add some fermented leek juice, mashed garlic, white vinegar, stinky tofu, etc. We can also add some whitening powder, which makes the water misty after making the nest. In fact, it's better to make some nest bait for silver carp and bighead carp, because if we use commercial bait to build the nest, the cost is relatively high, and often a large basin of bait is used without any movement. 2. Bottom fishing. There are several basic rules for making nests in bottom fishing, which are applicable in spring, summer, and autumn. The first is to make a heavy nest. This is because the number of big fish is always small, and big fish are more cautious when eating compared to small fish. So, after making the nest, big fish will enter the nest very slowly, and only a heavy nest can ensure the ability to lure fish for a long time. The second is that it's not recommended to replenish the nest frequently, especially throwing a few balls of nest bait when there's no bite, which is very undesirable. The reason for a heavy nest is not only to lure fish for a long time, but more importantly, big fish are very cautious. The movement of replenishing the nest is often large, which will scare the big fish near the nest. Let's put it this way, if there are anglers around who are impatient and throw nest bait when there's no bite, it's better to stay far away from them. The third is to pay attention to the landing point. The nest bait area should be behind the bait area to ensure that big fish coming from deep water encounter the bait first. Otherwise, no matter how long you wait, big fish won't eat the bait, and you'll think there are no fish at all. 3. Floating fishing. I won't elaborate much on activating the nest for silver carp and bighead carp. Generally, when the temperature is high, we fish in the shallow water layer, and add less flour to the nest bait. When we need to fish in the deep water layer, we can add a little more flour to make the nest bait disperse in the deeper water layer. In fact, we can make mid-water nests for grass carp, and there are many methods. Different methods mainly target different fishing water layers. Because grass carp, like silver carp and bighead carp, are active in the shallow water layer when the temperature is high and in the deep water layer when it's cool. What's the reason for this? It's because grass carp, silver carp, and bighead carp have high oxygen demand. High water temperature means that deep water is lack of oxygen, so they move in the shallow water layer. Cut some grass and spread it in a suitable position, and it becomes a floating nest. When fishing, fish at a depth of about half a meter below the water surface. Cut some grass, tie it with a string, leave a proper length of the string and tie it to a brick, and it becomes a mid-water nest. When fishing, also fish in the water layer below the nest bait area. On rainy days or when the wind is strong, grass carp will move in the water layer near the bottom. Then, cut some grass, tie it to a brick, and plant it in the water, so that it's near the bottom. Finally, it should be noted that although tender grass and reeds work well, replacing them with leeks, celery, and coriander will bring more unexpected results. Author profile: I am a self-media blogger who loves fishing and is good at sharing. Follow me, and let's exchange fishing skills and discuss every bit of wild fishing for anglers. Give a like, collect, and follow to avoid getting lost in the next update.